Hey, and welcome to a new episode of Transformed and Renewed. This is your coach, Jerry Thomas Jr. And welcome back if you are returning. If this is your first time checking us out, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on your screen because as you will see later after this video, we're going to share some news announcements, updates. And so, again, that's important that you like and subscribe to the channel so that way you do not miss out. You do not feel like you are the last one finding out. So make sure you do that right now. And if you are returning, welcome back. I appreciate you for joining us on this episode where we're going to be talking about likely overeating if this happens. So, like I said, after we have this discussion, we're going to get into the news announcements, but I want to talk about overeating. There is a lot of videos circulating on social media, commercials, especially when you think about ads for different foods or restaurants, meals, and usually it's showing something that's very enticing because after all, the restaurant or the store or even the company wants you to buy their product. They want you to buy it and they don't really care how much you buy. They just want you to buy. They do not care per se about your nutrition. They don't care about your health. The focus when it comes to an ad is I want people to buy. Okay. And one thing about that is the perception. Because again, if you see an advertisement, especially if you're hungry, likely you're going to think about that ad and it will likely lead you saying, you know what? I actually saw that ad and they have a deal. And I think I'm gonna get that deal because I'm hungry. Okay. The equation is right. Okay. My stomach is, feeling a little famished. Okay. And I saw that they had an ad that said, hey, I can get this deal 2 for 4. Okay. Or even 2 for 5. So why don't I just indulge, okay, myself. Okay, let me partake of what they're going to offer me and let me just really understand how we can have a mutual agreement between me and this 2 for 5, if you will. And when we think about that concept, for many people, you can eat something, and because it sounds so good, you're eating and you're thinking like, "Oh, this is good." And after about 5 or 10 minutes, it is gone. That food that was just there, that you were craving, that you were just so thinking so much about, is vanished. Only thing you have is a wrapper, and for some people, they will probably want to eat that too. But the problem is, if you consume that so quickly, um, one issue is time because how well are you chewing your food? Okay. Because when you're swallowing chunks of food, you also have to realize, is the body going to process it better compared to if I were to break it up more in the mouth? That's one concept to think about. And that's also a sign if you are overeating by how quickly you are consuming that entire meal. So let's say you start to eat at 10, 11, okay, in the morning, and you have a fairly healthy meal, or I guess a decent meal, I should say. Some people may say, you know what, I'm just going to get some pancakes, some eggs, and maybe two, maybe three slices of bacon, okay? That can be quite hearty, but let's say within that meal you have 2 or 3 pancakes, eggs, and then 2 or 3 slices of bacon. Well, if you were to consume that within 5 minutes, let's say less than 10 minutes, it's also going to be because one, in your mind, is it sounds so enjoyable, because also two, you also realize that it's usually going to be sweet pancakes because you're usually going to add syrup. And when people usually add syrup, it just increases the speed of you eating. It can typically increase it. I'm not going to say for all, but it can typically increase the speed for you eating, especially if you're hungry. And let's just say, you know what, you uh, decided to consume the bacon and the eggs as well. Well, after you consume that so quickly, your body now has to process all of that energy that it has just received. And let's say you thought you were chewing quickly, but you chew it enough to where it's able to be swallowed down your throat, but not necessarily to the point where that food is broken down, as well as the type of food source that you have or the class, such as with the pancakes, are they simple carbs or are they complex? Likely, if you're using white flour, it's going to be simple. You add sugar, simple, which means that you can likely expect a blood sugar spike. Now, because you have eggs and bacon, it may have a lower spike than what it could have had if you just had pancakes and syrup. But still, you're going to expect a spike because you're dealing with a simple class of sugars when it comes to the pancakes as well as the syrup. Okay. Another thing when it comes to overeating or potentially on the verge of knowing if you've eaten too much is you start to have some weird pains in your stomach area, or you may start to have some digestive discomfort. Now this can range anywhere from feeling bloated to having abdominal pain. It could be sharp, it could be a dull pain. It could feel like gas, where it just feels like something is building up and there's a light or even a moderate pressure. Okay. As you're sitting down, as you're walking, you feel this type of pressure. You could also be experiencing some nausea after you eat a meal, or if you've eaten too quickly, or if you've overeaten, you could experience that. And another common one is heartburn. So you may start to feel some chest pain. It may start to feel dull to begin with, but then you start to feel like this grasp or something is pulling in the center of your chest. Okay. Or just even something is just like, it's just almost trying to grip you, trying to grip the life out of you. Now, I wouldn't say that's necessarily a heart attack, but again, we know that that can be an issue, okay, when it comes to your consumption, especially if you're overeating. And this is important because, again, we have to really understand our body better, because if we don't, we can end up disrupting a lot of systems that could have been functioning normally. Now, I'm not going to say that they're functioning perfectly, especially if you're eating either unhealthy foods or you have just irregular eating patterns, or even if your choice of food selection is not always complementary of what you actually need for your body. Okay. So when we think about this concept, we have to keep some questions in mind. Am I a quick eater? Okay. Have I always been a quick eater? Do I have any pre-existing issues because of being a quick eater? As well as, do I typically overeat? Let's say at a meal, we could have just a basic meal on the table, or just a basic healthy meal. So let's say we'll use a salad and some wild caught salmon. Okay. Let's say we may throw in some wheat bread. Okay. If you need a carb. And with that, we asked the question of, if I had that meal, will I typically consume that quickly just because I'm a quick eater, or will I actually take my time just because I'm not in a rush? And if you feel that at least at every meal you are overeating, then that is something to note, because again, when it comes to digestive issues or disorders, a lot of times we can really have a we actually have more information than what we understand, just by taking a mental log of how we typically eat, what we typically consume. That can actually help, not to say that it will actually pinpoint the exact issues in the digestive area, but it can also give some additional information in terms of, okay, if I've been overeating and I haven't been chewing my food thoroughly, and I'm also feeling this weird abdominal pain every time I eat, or maybe an hour or two after I eat, I start to experience this pain, then these could be some issues that we definitely want to keep track of. And again, this is also important because sometimes people will have health issues, and because of not knowing or even adjusting some of their behaviors, it can lead to some severe, even fatal issues, especially for individuals. So, again, this topic is very important. How well am I eating? And am I eating the right type of foods? Do I know how to really portion, or I guess have good portion sizing for my foods? What type of foods do I need to portion more of or portion less? Or, in other words, what food should I eat more of or less of that is not going to have a significant implication when it comes to my caloric intake, as well as issues with my digestive system? Okay. So again, this is something that's also important, as well as when it comes to eating too much, can also affect weight loss, as well as how quickly you're able to lose weight. And if there's any underlying issues that will prevent you from losing weight because of overeating. Now, again, there are so many issues when it comes to this topic. And right now, I've just kind of given a high level overview, but I at least want to give you some ideas so that way you can be thinking about it. Because again, because I've seen so much, at least on social media, a lot of foods, people make different foods. Some foods are just outright too hearty, okay, in terms of just the fat content, the sodium, the added sugar content is just too hearty. And eating those foods, I'm sure likely does a lot to the body over time. Now, you may not feel the effects today, okay? But I can guarantee you, if you live long enough, you're going to start to feel those issues. And believe it or not, if you realize that more hospitals have individuals who are sick, that is likely going to be, not to say that's a reason due to it, but it's likely related to consumption of foods and what type of foods, and as well as eating patterns. So, again, especially if this is a goal for you, I would definitely keep this high on your radar to not just overlook. Because when it comes to health, okay, health, food consumption, okay, it is important to really manage it well. It's so simple to do, but because of free will for a lot of people and the access to so many foods, it becomes an issue because of just not being disciplined. And how do you become disciplined? Well, I've run out of time today, but I can tell you that if you do want to be disciplined, reach out to me directly, or you can navigate to our website at robody.org and sign up for a one-to-one health consultation with myself. And this way we can get you on the path to establishing some good and healthy practices for your life. So these are not just going to be a quick 10-day or a 30-day, and that's it. This is going to be principles that you can use, okay, any time in your life, okay? Because again, one thing that I found is for some people, you can get on a challenge and then you may do the challenge well, but afterwards, it's almost like you forgot exactly what you're doing. Or if you don't forget, you start to feel this sense of, well, I need to celebrate. And somewhere between the work that you did and that celebration, there's a there's a plot twist. The plot twist says, you know what? I've done the work, so let me just do whatever. Because if I wanted to do it again, I can do it again. But the main goal of it is to maintain. Okay. And that's what I help you to do is to maintain this. So that way you don't feel like, you know what, I can't eat certain foods. You can. We also will identify what foods you what foods you should likely eat, or which foods may not be as supportive to you. Okay. So with that, let's get into the news update because this is why you're here. So as I've shared, I think last week, that we were going to be rolling out our Patreon membership, and I was like, we're going to roll it out over the next couple of weeks. But the bad news is we are not going to be rolling it out over the next couple of weeks. That's the bad news. The good news is we're actually going to be rolling it out between Sunday and Monday. Okay, so we're just going to have a one plan. It's called the ROBODY Tribe, and this is where you can sign up. you are going to get more information. Okay. You're going to get access to myself. You're going to have a live Q&A. We're going to have some other benefits, okay? Doing live sessions where you can join me and we can discuss things, even daily to weekly devotionals, okay? It's also going to be just member or just tribe inspire, okay? So everyone who's joining, you share your feedback, I take the feedback, and it applies, okay? In terms of whatever you typically recommend, and I get a poll on that, kind of see what most people are saying. I'll work on that and we'll roll it out instantly. Okay. Which means that it's not going to take, you know, a month or two to roll it out. But if I get responses in a timely manner, we can roll out those updates ASAP. So, again, this is just going to be a program, especially if you know that, hey, sometimes I don't really take things seriously unless I have to put something of value on the line. I would say that this is for you, okay? Because if you're serious about your health and about your wellness, I am too, okay? You may say, you know what, I've tried so many different programs. I would say that you're wrong. And not to ever say that anybody's wrong, but you haven't tried me yet, okay? So let's really test that theory by you signing up to our Patreon program. And again, this is going to be exciting because again, this is where I can interact with you. We can start to work on some of those goals that you have, and and you can also have your own testimonial. That's the biggest part about this. Okay, of course, I enjoy helping people, but I also enjoy helping people to have their own testimonial about the work that they put in from start to finish. Okay, as well as maintaining that afterwards. Okay, so that is the update. So make sure that you're tuning in between Sunday and Monday. Okay. We'll also have another update with the link so that way you can be one of the first to sign up. Okay. And with that, in case you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to our page at Robody 1212, wherever you are checking us out. If you haven't followed us yet, make sure you do that because, again, I don't want you to miss out because we're going to be sharing some more news over the next couple of weeks. And again, I want you to stay in the know, okay? And the best way you can do that is by liking and subscribing to our page. With that, I will talk with you later, family.